to substitute it.
Doppler, I know the
For a
Doppler
pilot
effect. I don't know what the Doppler radar is.
Looking at an airplane saying, I'm a mile high.
Yeah.
This way Doppler radar tells them
Yeah.
exactly how high.
Yeah.
Then about 9-10 months ago now, there was an experiment in information retention. And computers at that time could retain 1,000 trillion bits of information per second. No humans can do that. So I want to put machines in Washington connected to industry, production, agriculture, to get an overview of our capabilities, not to replace people that can do the job better.
No.
And not to control people,
No.
only monitor agriculture. Now let me just tell you something I'm sure you don't know. From 3,000 miles up in space, with infrared cameras, if you photograph the Amazon jungle, you'll see all the thick trees as red in a definite pattern. So the Earth turns under the infrared camera, and we can get a picture of the state of disease of plants all over the world. No human can do that. So those are the areas that we wish to automate. So we have a picture of the Earth, and we have a picture of the ocean, which comes out when it's contaminated in different colors. And we can see contamination, death of the reefs all over the world. No human can do that.
Okay, so
Do you understand that?
I do understand.
Okay.
But the problem is...
Can I take this a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, people think that they're going to be taken over by machines because they think of it in terms of this society, the monetary society. And I'd be scared shitless of machines taking over in this
It's already
society.
going that
In
way.
fact, that's what's happening. No matter how much you don't want machines to do things, it doesn't make any difference. They're better than people. They're faster in factories, and they're going to take over people's jobs. But in this society, they displace people, and they hurt people. People use machines to subvert other people and hold them down and bomb them and kill them for resources. So it's not the machines we should be wary of, it's the abuse and misuse of machines. And as long as we live within the monetary system, it's going to be more fascistic, the machines will be more hurtful. That's why that's why Jacque came up with a resource-based economy, because they wouldn't be used that way. They couldn't be used that way if you understood what the resource-based economy would be.
I'll ask both of you. How do we do away then with the 150,000 years of human greed and genetic desire for self-betterment through control of resources? And because if I have more resources than you, I can have sex with more women, pass on my genes more, and be the alpha male. How do we convince people that that's not a good way?
When I was about 17, I built a new kind of airplane. I better even tell you how I did it. I dropped a piece of balsa wood and rotated it to the Earth accidentally.
Yeah.
So I S-shaped it and rotated faster, and so I designed two wings on an airplane that rotate, not a propeller.
Sure.
Just rotated, and it went to the ground slowly, took off faster. And when I went to a model airplane meeting, most of the normal kids turned out normal airplanes. I never did. I worked alone, some of them didn't fly, and I had to overcome the problems. And I didn't depend on approval from other kids. I depended on, I think I can solve this problem or that problem, and I learned to do that alone. But if I joined with other kids, they walked over and said, what the hell is that supposed to be? You know, they didn't say, that's an interesting type of aircraft, does it work? You know, they didn't do that. And they appeared to be abnormal to me, but made that way by associating with normal kids.
Yeah.
Then I began to disassociate with normal kids and began to read and experiment. But I was reinforced for it because when the principal roped off the back of the class and he let me read what I wanted to read, I was beaten up by normal kids. In the aircraft factory, when this guy Ford roped off an area and says, just think up new things, I was beaten up by the engineers. Can you understand that?
Yeah, because they don't want you. They don't want to deviate from.
So I began to lose respect for education. I began to look into universities, and they were better equipped than ever with the technical equipment. But the wars were getting worse. They could bomb whole cities with nuclear and wipe out thousands of people in a few seconds.
Yeah.
And so I said, there's something wrong with our culture, obviously.
Very much so.
And so I went to work on the redesign of a culture. That's what made me started. And then the problem is, how do you change people for years that have been brought up generations? So I went back to China and started to study Chinese. And I asked Chinese people with correspondence, was there ever a Chinese baby born that spoke Chinese through the thousands of years of speaking Chinese? They said no, always had to go to school. Then I began to question, can people pass on experience to their young? And I tried that in all languages. No American nor Englishman ever spoke English without going to school. And we took a Filipino baby and brought up in Italy, he speaks just like an Italian. So you can't pass on acquired characteristics. You could pass on double eyes or triple ears or multiple breasts, but you can't pass on what you've learned. If you're a mathematical genius, you can't pass that on your kids. But if you have a way of reaching those kids, you can give them the ability to do that. Then if you're born with a better brain, say more neurotransmitters, you know what an idiot savant is? It's a guy that can tell you, if you say, what happened in 1918, February the 2nd? That's the day the first battleship was honored, you see. And they said, gee, what a fan. The guy in other areas is an idiot. There were more neurotransmitters in a regional area of the brain. So, if you're born with a better brain than anybody, a better brain tissue, more neurotransmitters, you become a fascist faster. But the brain has no mechanism for telling you that which is relevant or irrelevant. That's based on experience. So I notice when a baby fox sees a porcupine, it doesn't know what it is. It gets closer and closer, then it sniffs it and gets stuck and stays away. And people say, you see, he learned. No, he was changed by the stick. They use the word learn. Or if an old man's walking around and says, man, I'll never fly, then the plane flies over, he says, I've changed my mind. He didn't change his mind, he was changed by events.
Okay, how would we convince, let's just look at big names.
It's the best I've found out. That if I ran motion pictures in the South...
Oh, no, I haven't finished my question. I think my question is going to be slightly different. Say there are some very rich families or dynasties which do run things in international finance or politics. You've got the Kennedys, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, just to take the bigger examples. How these people, to me, obviously love power. They love, like Chairman Mao, Mao Zedong said,
I agree with you.
they love power. How would we convince them to have a more egalitarian society?
I had a friend named Henry Berliner. He owned the Berliner Joyce aircraft factory. And during the Depression, I went to see him, and the government agents came over, said, we're taking over the factory. He says, why? You haven't paid taxes for 3 years on it. He said, I have no orders for airplanes. Take the fucking factory. It's not doing anything. And that's what happened in the States. Chevrolet failed, the banks failed, and we gave them, the same people that created the problem, money. We bailed them out with public funds, educational funds, and that tells you who runs the country. Obama did the same thing. So I'm telling you that that will not change things unless General Motors shows you a blueprint of a new car, better than the Toyota, better mileage. Then if you bail them out, you got a definite return. But if they show nothing, you just bail them out, it means they're basically corrupt. Now, they already lost their factories, but we bailed them out. This time, there is no bailout. We've never had a condition where we went to war where everybody didn't prosper. Now, you have wars all over the world and people aren't prospering. With nuclear war, it would take 3 days. There's no time for profit. Do you understand?
I do.
So you can't make any money. So I say, if they were to conscript you to serve in the army, this is the way I talk to soldiers, they should conscript all the war industries so no one makes a buck out of war. Then it's real. I talk that way to soldiers. They say, gee, that's right. But if you say, you're just killing people, they don't think, what are you, some kind of a foreign agent? Show them what's missing. And if you can't do it linguistically, do it with films. Now, films can get to millions of people. I can. I travel around the world. I may talk to maybe 500 people in an audience.